All right, so it's a privilege to be sitting here this morning with a six-time participant in the Ironman Challenge, who I know you've got an amazing journey and amazing story to tell. I can't wait to get into it. Let's talk a little bit about that experience in the Ironman competitions.
Sure. First of all, hello, thanks for having me here. How did I start? I was always interested in endurance sport, and I did it all my life. So I started, I think, skiing when I was 3 or 4 years old. My parents put me on ski, and then I was playing football when I was young. And I started doing endurance sport, like on a more semi-professional level when I was a teenager, like was 18, 19. When I noticed that drinking alcohol and going to parties and smoking weed is not everything, so I focused more on going out and challenge myself. And yeah, so I started with running. I was running more and more, and I always liked the distances, right? So I was never really going fast, and so I always preferred to do it more slowly, but going longer. And yeah, I started from there. And then when I was a student, I started cycling a lot. I lived in the Black Forest in Germany. I did mountain biking. I did road biking in the mountains and everything. And did also different long distance races in the Alps, for example, with we're climbing like the Tour de France, basically. Not on that level, but like for amateurs. And yeah, and at one point, I think it was 2007, I said, okay, I'm running, I'm cycling, so I just need to swim, and then I can go for triathlon, right? And so what I did in 2006, I think, in October, when the season finished, I signed up for an Ironman event, which was a year later. And I said, okay, now I have to learn to swim. I knew how to swim, but not really, like a freestyle. I could swim a little bit, but not really on a professional level. So in this winter, I went to swim almost every day, every second day or so. I went to swim in the university pool, and then I learned swimming, and then from there I started the journey. And from there, yeah, every year I try to improve and getting better. And I really enjoy the Ironman races. I think it's also a great experience because it teaches you a lot also about how to deal with your life, right? Because it's the event itself is already a challenge, but I think what is much harder is like the long preparation before, right? Because you need like 6 to 9 months in advance, where you need to do the planning, where you have to build the discipline to go out. Even in winter, right? In Germany in winter, it's snowing. You still need to go out to run and to do some cycling in the snow. And so that helps you build some discipline, right? And and just to balance this different priorities and having a goal and move towards this goal. And I think what's also very important is the pacing, right? That's what I like about long distances, because many people, they start very fast. So the first kilometers, you usually have always a few guys that going ahead. But if you're doing a good pacing, already towards the last quarter or so, you will pick them up again. And so, yeah, it's a lot of important lessons that you can learn from that.
See, there's a lot of parallels between training for an Ironman competition and hiking. And hiking is really something that I spend a lot of my time doing personally, but also professionally. And I've really realized a lot of the same thing, and especially interacting, taking other people out on trails, because they're excited when they get there. The goal obviously is to get to the end of the trail, and we want to run because we're so pumped up and we're so thrilled that achieving the goal is going to define this hike, this experience. However, I find that when you get caught up in that goal, I've got to constantly remind everybody it's not about that destination. It's about that journey, that experience, because you're going to miss so many little nuances. Like, a good example being sitting here right now having this conversation. If I was focused on the end goal of putting this conversation together and produce it, I'd probably miss off to the distance the fact that there's an army of ducks walking over here and how hilarious that is right now. So, it's something to enjoy. And that's what the outdoor experience gives us, is that enjoyment, but also that ability to test ourselves and discover how much resilience there is already naturally within us. And if there's not enough to meet the goal, we've got a beautiful environment to strengthen that muscle.
Right. And I think you're making a great point here. And in the beginning, I also thought a lot about goals. I think that's also something I changed over the years. So in the beginning, I was very competitive, right? And I always wanted to achieve these goals, and I usually achieved them. But yeah, over the years, I found out that, yeah, it's not so important as you're saying. It's more the journey towards that, right? And it came to me when I mean, my final goal is, so if you're in endurance sports, so one of the dreams you have is to go to the World Championship to Hawaii, so to the Ironman World Championship, right? And I reached this goal in 2018. So I went there, and it was an amazing experience, right? You're swimming and with dolphins in the ocean, and you're cycling in this beautiful landscape and everything. But after that, and I succeeded at it, but then I said, okay, what's next, right? I mean, you got there, you finished the World Championship and everything. And I think, okay, there's not much more that can come in terms of setting goals, right? And since then, I'm actually focusing more, as you're saying, on the journey. And that's something I always liked in this outdoor activities, right? I also did a lot of hiking. In my life, I was hiking the Himalaya. I did a lot of multi-day cycling trips. And I always loved to be in nature, because there you can really connect. And when you're not even when you're alone or with your friends, but you have this silence and you have this connection with nature and also with yourself, actually, because if you do something like that for several days, it's not always funny, right? Sometimes you have pain somewhere, sometimes it's just annoying, and it's raining and everything is wet and you're hungry. You just want to sit somewhere and have something to eat, or a barbecue, or a beer, or whatever. But it's these phases like in real life, right? And you get through them, and it's all part of the journey, right? It connects you more with yourself and with nature. And I think that's a beautiful part about it, right?
See, I find that the beautiful parts of the journey are when you embrace the suck factor. When everything is really difficult and challenging, that's where the real satisfaction comes out.
Right.
And I think about this year, this spring, I've spent a lot of time on some really challenging trails, taking people up, 500 stairs at a time as a part of the trail. And, they look at it and they're like, man, I can't do that. I'm like, it's going to suck. Your calves are going to burn, but we're going to get through it at whatever pace it needs to be. We're just going to embrace it. When we get up to the top of that staircase and you look back down, you not only see the beauty of what you just climbed through, but you also have that sense of accomplishment within that's going to springboard, propel you, not just through the rest of whatever that excursion or adventure might be, but it's going to come back into your daily life. You're going to be able to embrace the stuff that comes with the stress, or, the car breaking down or whatever else goes wrong, and realize, man, not only do I have the grit inside to embrace it and achieve and still get through it, but I've got this outside the box mentality of thinking that's going to help me to make it a little bit easier to get through it.
Right. And that's another very important point. And I think most people, or at least many people, as soon as it gets painful, they will stop, right? But as you're saying correctly, right, the pleasure starts usually if you go beyond this first pain, then it's actually much more pleasurable, right?
It's almost like a lot of the time I'll be out with somebody and they get there and halfway through it they're like, man, I'm tired. I want to turn around and go home. It hurts. It sucks. And you hit a point where the path back to where you started is just as difficult and challenging to get to. as it would be to complete the rest of the course. So, you look at that and think about it, you're already halfway there. I'm going to achieve that goal no matter what it is, because that fall backwards to go back to the start, it's sometimes even harder, even worse. So you gotta really focus on the resilience. You
Right.
gotta let that speak to us. And I feel like a lot of the time when the pain comes, we get scared to admit to ourselves that we can do this. We fall into our limiting beliefs.
Right. And it also helps you to expand your frontiers, your barriers, right? Because yeah, if you always go just to your limits and you never go beyond, you will never you're not able to grow your capacity and your abilities to do things, right? So you really need to go beyond these steps.
Well, that's where the mental aspect of it comes into, because over the last handful of years, I really started to discover just how much like philosophy applies to the physical aspect of getting out and enjoying the safety and the connection and just the overall experience of an outdoor experience. And when you look at those great philosophers that have come before us, you realize that through their journey and through the words that they left us, we can find the inspiration within to train ourselves to push through that pain so that the next time it's a little easier.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's something I learned also through these events and through this racing, is to develop this mindset that if I want to achieve things, I'm going for them, right? I don't care if there's pain or if there's if there are obstacles in my way, and I'm going there. And so the craziest thing I did in terms of this outdoor events was I did it twice in 2014 and 15, and then a few smaller ones. It was actually a mountain bike race through Israel, so through the land of Israel. So it's like 1,400 kilometers, which is like, for my American friends, it's like 1,000 miles or so. There are a lot of mountains, so the elevation, total elevation on the bike is that you have to do is like 60, 70,000 feet. And it's all off-road mountain biking, right, on single tracks, and it's in the desert and everything. So it's a lot of, you have to hike the bike. So it's a multi-day self-supporting race. And there you're really alone with yourself. And this really, I think I learned so much from that, because you have so many ups and downs that you have to go through, and so many things happening there. I think, yeah, it took me in the end 9 days to reach to the goal at the Red Sea in Eilat. To get there, I went there with a friend. But yeah, there happened so many things. For example, on the second day, I broke my the derailleur of the bike, right, the shifter, and it was in the middle of nowhere, right? So I had to change it. I have to fix it myself. I removed the shifter, and I made a single speeder out of that. So I had to climb 2 mountains going up and down with a single speeder through the forest. And till I found a bike shop that could replace the parts, right? But I never thought about quitting, right? We just continued. I had a friend with me, which was also good because he was supporting me. He was waiting for me. And then, yeah, you reach so many, as I said, there's so many things, like on the first and second day, it's okay. And then on the third day, your ass is so painful because you cannot sit on the bike anymore. I was just cycling standing. And then on the fourth, fifth day, it got better. And yeah, you're going through all these phases. But yeah, if you don't quit, it's such a big reward that you're getting for that.
And then you come back off of something like that with the experience, and you think about how you can apply that into your daily life. Because I know I do a lot of this in my work and in my teachings.
Yes.
In my case, with backcountry hiking, we're out there teaching the skills that go into that, the skill sets of building shelters, starting fires, things like that. And it not only gives you the confidence and the good feeling, but in the long run you get to take away with it this feeling of self-worth and self-value. self-trust.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something that you mentioned a couple of times so far when it comes to these different experiences, and that's the alone factor. A lot of us go out for that in itself, the isolation. But yet, on some level, we're scared of the isolation because we're afraid of the things that are kind of going to come up, within our thoughts and within our feelings. We don't necessarily want to sit with it. In the real world, we get to easily pick up our phone, find a distraction. But when you're outside, there's none of that. So you have to actually sit and commune with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, that's one of the best areas to do so. And a subject that I really get into a lot through my work is animal medicine, finding, inspiration and stories within the way that an animal that you see conducts itself. And they don't have those stories because they don't have the fears. They're not capable of producing them the way that we are. We are the greatest storytellers. In fact, we're the only storytellers on earth. And we get so caught up in our minds that it gives you an opportunity to release those things and eventually I feel like you find a spot where you no longer have to face that fear. You're no longer scared of it. You start to just embrace and develop who you are. And, outside of all the labels, outside of all the goals that you have in life, you find those strengths. And that's where that comes through. And that's where you're able to come back into the daily world and, apply that to all of those great things.
Sorry, I have to close the door. My dog came in and opened the door. So 1 second.
Okay, not a problem.
Yeah, sorry for that. Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. The point is, and you're right, we're storytellers and we're telling stories and we're listening to stories all the time. I think it's very important that we make sure that the stories we're listening to or that we're reading or whatever are putting us into positive mind, right? Because a lot of the stories we're hearing all day in the news and the social media and everything, they're not putting us in the right mindset, right? They're just based on this limiting beliefs. So I think it's very important how we program our mind with this external distraction. And yeah, I think so. So I'm also a coach. I actually teach my clients working on this mindset, right? To develop this winning mindset and to develop this, so to overcome their limiting beliefs, basically. And one point there is also to work on what you said, right? To go back and to deal with themselves, right? Because you're absolutely right. We are not used. I mean, we're scared of being alone with ourselves, right? It's so scary. We need to touch our phone and check something because we're afraid of our own thoughts. And I think, yeah, to find back, to listen to ourselves and to see what's going on in our body and with our feelings. We mentioned already a few times there are good and bad feelings, but they're not actually not bad feelings, right? They're just feelings. We make them bad. And I mean, all of them have their validity. We just need to accept it and we need to deal with them rather than trying to avoid this, let's say, the negative feelings, right? Because they're actually, I mean, we make them the negative, they're just there. And I think, yeah, so nature, being in nature is a great way to work on that, right? Because we really, yeah, we're seeing all these things, we're connecting with the plants, with the wind, with the rain, with the animals. So I think that's a great way to really, yeah, focus on the present and being with ourselves and being with the real world, right?
Most definitely. To get back to that storytelling aspect, I think that as we evaluate the things that we hear and the things that we see, a lot of the time we get caught up in the fact that we almost forget about having the ability to choose how those things are going to be interpreted, and we let the negative aspect of it come to light so quick because that's human nature. It's almost like we're hardwired to enjoy the suffering and the hardships of life. Like we seek them out. And when you become aware of that and you get out into the world and you put a physical set of lenses onto it. You know, you put the physical context of getting out onto a hike, a multiple day hike, or a multiple day, whatever the thing may be, where it's going to suck.
Mm.
If you bring your awareness to the fact that we instantly jump to that suck factor, you're already preparing yourself for success because you're already dealing with that. You're already accepting it. So the next natural step would be just to put the boots on the ground and actually take steps to go forward and complete whatever the mission may be.
Mm. Right. And yeah, I think that's one of the problems we have also today, right, with our society that's based so much on this entertainment, let's say, and this distraction, right? Because yeah, I mean, we say, or we tend to say, we're using that for relaxation, right? We're coming home in the evening and we eat our pizza and we're watching Netflix or television or whatever. But it's not really relaxing us because it just programming us with this weird thoughts or with whatever we're watching with this negative imagined. I think it's much more relaxing to go out it doesn't have to be a run, right? It can be just be outside in the nature or something. I like to do garden work, for example. I like to be with the plants, to see them growing and stuff. I think there's so much more relaxation to that. And it frees really your mind. And then you can go back when you're going back to work to be really productive and creative because it's not consuming your mind. It's actually releasing that.
So let me ask you this. Say someone reaches out to you and they've just become aware of the fact that, you know, all I do is I live in this fog and this haze of I go to work, I come home, and, you know, I sit on my phone, I sit on TV, whatever, and it's really not progressing me. I want to become more aware of how to tease out the essence of who I truly am. What would be the first steps that you'd recommend to them?
Yeah, I think, the first thing I always do, and it's always my first recommendation, is connect again with yourself. And I think there are different ways to that, but the important thing is just being yourself. Putting away your phone can start with 10, 20 minutes, whatever. And this can be in meditation, it can be in writing, like journaling or something like that, or it can be in nature. Just choose something and be with yourself, be with your thoughts. And I think from there, everything starts, because I think, most people today, the problem is they live, you know, their life is not really miserable so much that they're suffering so much that like they really have to change it. I think for most people, the drive to change is not big enough because they think it's okay, right? They have this entertainment, they're living on this dopamine kicks, which keeps them somehow not happy, but at least like entertained and in a state of, okay, it could be worse, right? So, but then the motivation to change something is not big enough. But once you get there, once you notice, that's not what I want. I mean, I don't want to live like that for the rest of my life. So go back and connect with yourself. And from there, you start to make the changes and then think, what do you really want? I mean, and usually, I mean, most people want to do something that is active and that is creative. And that's also in our nature, right? Because when we're born, when we're small kids, up to a certain age, we're not like we're today, right? We're curious, right? We want to experience, we want to go out, we want to take our bicycle, we're falling down and we're standing up and we try it again, right? We don't have these fears and these beliefs that we cannot do things. So it's just something that we're learning over the years that that we should not do that anymore. And we need to come back to the state where we have this curiosity about the world and ourselves. And this we can find out by dealing with ourselves and by disconnecting. And I think one of the great ways, one of my favorite ways is being in nature. It's like also with this long distance things for me, it's like meditation. You know, I told you about this race. It was 9 days. We were cycling on the bicycle, an average of like 18 hours per day, sleeping like 3-4 hours and eating the rest. And before I went there, I thought, I mean, maybe it's getting boring, right? What are you thinking all day? You need a lot of podcasts and music. But no, I didn't listen to any podcast or anything. You're just with yourself, with your own thoughts. And yeah, in the first few hours of the first day, maybe you think about your work, but then you stop and you're just becoming one with the nature, and it's not boring anymore, right? It's just, you're just being, and it's so powerful, actually.
See, and we just teased out the most important thing, and that anybody can really hold in their hand or in their heart to begin that journey, is that curiosity, that childlike curiosity, it never ever truly leaves us. You know, we all have our social media accounts, and we get creative and we try to do these things because that curiosity is still there. We're still looking at something, and we're still trying to figure out a story around it to understand it. But as we go through life, yes, we do end up finding that voice of the childlike curiosity becomes almost muted, because it's like it's not acceptable. So understanding that it is okay, for one, and it is accepted, it's still a part of your active life, is really, I think, the groundwork for that. You know, stepping off of the couch, putting down the Netflix, and actually exploring who you are and finding the vocabulary to be able to voice that most authentic version of yourself.
No, absolutely. I would absolutely agree to that. I think that's.
And then, you know, to travel life and try to achieve these goals that we set with ourselves, that becomes the next set of stairs that you climb. Because once you've got the authentic version of yourself, the path toward those goals, I feel, actually becomes more clear in a way that you can walk it and still have control over it, to where it doesn't become the definition of who you are.
Right, exactly. And I think, yeah, goal setting is also a very important point in life. So today, I think I see it very differently than I did in the past. I still setting goals, and I have my long-term goals, but I see them more like as a vision, right? It's more like a lighthouse. It's more like giving me more or less the direction where I want to go. But yeah, you're right. It's not defining my identity anymore. And I think it's much more important to celebrate progress over the outcome, right? Because I mean, so for me, it's much more important to do every day, like doing the best I can and enjoying and being present and focusing on what I'm doing today, rather than focusing on a distant goal. Because if you focus on this goal too much, you're kind of delaying your gratification into the future, right? And this future will actually never happen, because once you're there, you have a new goal, and you're never actually really getting happy, right? Because you're just chasing your goals. But if you focus on the day, and if you're enjoying your day and doing the best, it doesn't matter where your goal is, right? It can also change during the way, but you know, if you do every day the best, your future will be bright, because you're doing every day the same, right? You're just giving your best, and in this way, the future will be the same. It will just be like today. It will be good. Like the day today is good. The day in 1 year will be good. So I don't worry about if I reach my goal, or if it changes in 6 months, or anything. So, and in this way, you're also always making progress. You're always growing, and you're always getting better, and you, yeah, and that's the important thing. Right?
It brings to mind the marshmallow test, because you mentioned how we're always seeking that gratification. We want the instant gratification. So, you know, if you hand somebody a marshmallow and you say, hey, you can have this one marshmallow right now, or you can wait a little while and I'll give you two. You know, 9 times out of 10, the quick response is to take that one because of the instant gratification. But when you sit and you wait for this for two, you're practicing and you're bringing out that self-discipline. So being able to really focus on that discipline within yourself is really where that true direction, or that true path of satisfaction, gratification, becomes the most meaningful.
Right. And I think that's something that's also got more severe with social media, because social media lives on this on this dopamine kicks, on this instant gratification. And yeah, because of that, we're so addicted to that, right? We always want to have, I want to read the next tweet and the next whatever, next video. So that's why I think one important thing is also, yeah, I mean, try to spend time during the day without your phone. And not the first thing in the morning should be like to check the latest news or stand up and take your cell phone. So yeah, try to schedule phone free or social media free times during your day. And this can be like, for example, I don't touch my phone in the morning, or at least I don't open social media. I use it for my meditation, but yeah, try to extend the time in the morning. It can be half an hour, 1 hour before you first time check your emails and your Facebook or whatever messages. Or it can be during the day when you go for a walk, leave your phone at home, stuff like that. And this is something that really teaches you again to this discipline and to get rid of this dopamine addiction.
See, I feel like that actually teaches you the healthiest definition of disconnect, because we're all guilty of disconnect in one way or another. You know, it is a weakness that we all carry. And when you learn to embrace those weaknesses and learn how to utilize them in a way that is going to help propel you forward, you can almost change the definition of that label by turning it from a weakness into a strength. But the most important part of that is, again, getting back to the communing with yourself in whatever the setting may be, discovering your strengths, but not getting caught up in them to the point that you either forget about your weaknesses or you look down upon your weaknesses. It's learning to find that balance between the two.
Right, and you can learn anything, I would say, right? I mean, and yeah, I think strengths or weaknesses, I don't really think I think in these terms, right? If there's something I want to do, even if it's my weakness, or if I don't have, let's say, talent in that, so I still want to do that, right? And with enough practice, if I really want to do something, I can also learn it and I can become good at it. Of course, it's easier the earlier you start. For kids, it's much easier than if you start only when you're 50 years old or something like that. But it wouldn't hold me back of doing something, right? I mean, and I think that's important. We should never stop learning, and we should never stop growing, and we should never stop our own development. And this can be different things. We can learn new things. We can learn new skills. We can learn new languages. Yeah, and languages is, for example, also a great example. I mean, if I look on my kids, right, they're 11 and 14 now. They grew up speaking 2 languages. Then they learned English in school, and now we're living in Mexico now. So within 1 year, they speak fluent Spanish, right? So they're now with 11 years, they're fluent in 4 languages, which is great. When I think I'm 45 now, 46, so it took me much longer to learn Spanish now, but still I could do it, right? I mean, it's a little bit annoying to see my kids now speaking better Spanish than me, but I mean, that's life, right? And you shouldn't compare with others. You should compare with your journey and with your progress and where you were starting. And yeah, you should only compare with your past self and not with other people, because they have life conditions of them are so different, and their starting points are different, and yeah, so don't get into the trap to compare yourself with others.
See, that's where I feel like journaling becomes such a powerful tool, because you're able to put down on paper the events of the day. You can hold them up for review. You can discover how each thing that you did either speaks to the authentic version of yourself that you want to become or be, or maybe it fell a little short and it gives you an opportunity to travel a path of knowledge and discovery and learn how to improve upon those things. So, you know, for me personally, through my journey, it's been all that time within I have 6 or 7 different journals that I do at a time to really hone who it is that I am in the direction that I want to go and how to get there. So you're building that roadmap by evaluating and being open to learning things, because it gets back to the childhood curiosity. We're never too old to learn a new skill or a new ability, or most importantly, we're never too old and it's never impossible not to change, because we are changing every second of every day. It's just a matter of what you do with it and how you apply that change.
Right. And I think that's another important point. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We're changing no matter if we want or not, right? And life changes and all the conditions changes. So, and even if we think we do nothing and we think we have our house and our television and our job, everything changes and we will change, and we can proactively work on our change, or we can just let it happen and change maybe in a direction that we don't want to be there. But the change is inevitable.
It's inevitable, but it's also scary. So if we take the time to, get back to into our journals and look at how each change happens, it eliminates that fear, and it gives us the ability to truly embrace every change and every step within our heart. So we become stronger. We become more able to, again, express the direction that's going to lead us to those goals we would like to achieve, and add to that character of who we are.
And I think, yeah, and you mentioned journaling before, and I think that was one of the single best habits that I built in the last year, to doing journaling. And I think there it's also a good example how we can change. If we change perspectives towards something, can become much easier, because I always thought, I don't know, I want to write, but I don't know what to write. And if I write it, maybe if I read it, it sounds stupid. And, these are these limiting beliefs we have. And then, so I'm journaling now since a few years. And I do it very unstructured, but it's really helpful for me. There's a way of journaling. So I write like every day 3 pages, and it's really not important. I don't have any structure to that. I just stand up in the morning and I start writing, and I finish when the 3 pages are done, right? So, and in this way, and I also never read it after that again, right? So it's just like to get the thoughts out of my mind, and you just write. And if nothing comes to your mind, you just write. I don't know what to write right now. So, and so it's really just getting into this process and becoming familiar with that, and it helps you to clear your mind and to take some thoughts or some worries that you have in your head. It helps you to take them out and to store them in a safe place, right? And to free your mind in the morning and to open it with something more productive and creative. And in this way, you don't need to worry, what you're writing, or if it's important or not, or it doesn't matter, because it's not the purpose of the writing, right? It doesn't have to sound, it's not for your memories or something that you want to read maybe in 20 years to your grandchildren or something like that. It's just for the sake of writing.
See, and I think you just beautifully reassured everybody in the fact that it's okay. There's no structure. There is no, this is the way it has to be about any piece of that compass, whether it's meditation, whether it's journaling, whether it's outdoor adventure, it's family life, or it's work life. It's unique to you. And that's the most important part. And I think when you really shine a light on that simple little phrase, you take a lot of the not only the fear but the intimidation out of starting to hone yourself, to train yourself to express the thing that we're trying to get at in this conversation, bringing the authentic version of you and letting that be the definition of who you are. All of the rest of the world around you, goals, activities, achievements, everything else. Those are just different pieces to the puzzle that you get to celebrate and shine that beautifulness of your heart and your soul into the world.
Absolutely. That's beautiful said.
So now that I got you nice and warmed up, I got one question that I ask everybody toward the end of the conversation, which is from the water, from the trails, and from the seat of the bicycle. Give us some inspiration that's going to help bring that beauty out of our heart into the world.
Sorry, you mean, can you repeat it, please?
So in your case,
Yeah.
from your journey on the back of a bicycle to the waters and everything in between, give us some inspiration that's going to motivate us to bring out that beauty that's within our soul.
Yeah, I think the world is a beautiful place, and I think life is beautiful. And I think, yeah, life is also limited, so we should really make the best out of it. So think about it. I mean, how do you want to spend your life? What do you want to be proud of at the end of your life? And then, yes, think about all the beautiful moments. If you go out, if you're in nature, if you climb a mountain, or if you finish a competition, or if you finish a hike. And in the end of the life, I think it's the small things that matter most, right? So focus on the small things. So and enjoy the moment, enjoy the flower outside, listen to the birds, enjoy the dogs when they're wagging with their tails. I mean, these are really the beautiful things. Listen to the kids playing. I think that's what really drives me today. And if you focus on that, and if you learn again to value these small things, I think then you've made it, because then you will be truly happy and fulfilled.
So you get one go around in this world, and it's about that journey. It's about that go around. It's not about that destination,
No.
whether somebody dictates it to you or you build it in your own mind. Enjoy each and every step, each and every footstep. Celebrate it. Don't run from it. Whether it's good or it's bad, it happens for a reason. Those are the words that I take from what you shared. Now, before I let you go, though, you got to let everybody know how they can get in touch with you, what you got going on, and also how to start working with you.
Sure. So I'm mainly active on Twitter right now, and on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. I also have a podcast there, interviewing every week interesting people, also about the topics of mindset development, self development, personal development. Also combined with some adventures. Usually I've people that, let's say, overcame something by doing some things different, and that they reached to a higher state of living. And yeah, that's the way to reach out to me on Twitter. I'm there under Coach Ingo, so you can get in touch. Also, check out my coaching program, where I also work with people changing their mindset, overcoming limiting beliefs, reach true freedom. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hear from you.
Well, thank you, brother, for the time, sitting down and having this beautiful conversation with me. It was beautiful. And I look forward to connecting again sometime soon.
Sure. Thank you, Mike. It was a pleasure.